Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the webinar tonight. I'm Dr. Tabor Smith. On behalf of Genesis Chiropractic Software, I am honored to have Dr. Chris Zaino, an extremely popular chiropractor right now. He just launched his new website, chirothoughtleaders.com, and it's absolutely went viral. It's all over the internet, and I tell you what, I couldn't be more happy than to be here right now getting ready for this training with Dr. Zaino. Thank you, Chris, for being here, and thank you for being on the call.
I appreciate it, Tabor. Thanks, everybody. We're going to have fun tonight.
Absolutely. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to you, and just let me know when you want me to change the slides, and we'll get started.
All right, Tabor. So I want you guys to imagine for a second, can you imagine that you're able to adjust 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 patient visits per week, but at the same time your quality of care goes up? Could you imagine that you're able to bring home $330,000 plus all cash without insurance? Let me say that again, all cash. There's no need for insurance. Imagine having a business or having your practice where you literally have an avalanche of patients coming in every single day. Now the next question is, do you think it's possible? Because I see a lot of people out there saying, well, it's impossible for someone to see that amount of volume and have good care. Or how can I do it without insurance, or whatever the limited belief system is. But do you think it's possible? And if you think it's possible, my next question for you is, do you think you are capable of adjusting and taking care of that many people and having that big of an impact in your town? And then third one, this is more of a spiritual concept. Do you believe you're worthy? I mean, do you think you were chosen? Do you think you're worthy of impacting the lives of so many people weekly? And at the same time, knowing that you're worthy, but also being okay with collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash every single month. Because for some reason I think it stems from religion, where it's some type of bad thing, like that you got to be a servant poverty martyr in order to be a servant. You can't be a servant and yet make an amazing living, not knowing that because of what you do, you save patients hundreds of thousands of dollars of sick medical debt. Their medical doctors that they love and they say they're the best of, they pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars for something that does not and will not ever work. And for the fact that you could supply something in 30 seconds by removing the interference to allow that person to change the history of their life, become more productive, save $400,000 to $600,000 of sick medical debt, and stay out of the nursing homes and live the life they were created to have and achieve their goals, what's the value to that? You should never, ever feel that you're unworthy of being able to serve the masses, and you should be paid more than a medical doctor because you do something and you have a profession that does what they never would be able to do. And the only reason why chiropractors are around is because the medical profession has failed miserably at. B.J. Palmer used to say, you want to get rid of chiropractors, the medical doctors, what do you need to do? Medical doctors, you need to get your patients well. But because they have failed, and they will always fail, and they will continue to fail no matter what research or bullshit they want to say, we will always have the profession, and we will always have the principle that is the only way and the only ability for that person to heal is what we do, the principle of removing the interference so the body can heal. So never, ever don't think that you're unworthy of that. For some of you guys who know me, I'm Dr. Zaino. For some of those who don't, I have the single largest practice in the history of the profession, or one of it. Dr. Shifton's seen over 2,000 a week, but I'm currently doing it. It is not a box-in-the-wall practice. It's not a GPC practice. Patients, value their care. And in this call, I'm going to show you exactly how I was just like anybody else. I came out of school. I had no philosophy coming out of school. I graduated 8.5 years ago. I had no philosophy coming out of school. I had a major scarcity mentality. So I'll tell you how I went from seeing 75 patient visits a week, billing $5,100 of insurance, to my best month where we've seen over 3,000, collecting well over now $340,000 per month, all cash. And my hours went down, and my standard of quality of care went up. So how am I able to do that? I was just really able to achieve these things by overcoming the 4 major challenges that currently stop 99% of the chiropractors in this country from achieving similar results. And these are the 4 things, guys, that really stopped me for so many years. And I narrowed it down to 4. There's probably a little bit more, but these are the big 4 things that were totally, rocking me. I couldn't get past them. and I had to go through a lot of heavy stuff to get through them. And so, I mean, this is not a volume call. I'm just telling you what's happening now, in my life. This is not. I mean, whatever the volume you want to see in your life, it's not whether it be 300 or 3,000. When you listen to this call over and over again, you're going to learn how to overcome these 4 barriers in your own life and your practice, so you're able to live your purpose at a higher level. See, it's about you living your purpose. Then you'll be able to create the quality relationships that you deserve with your patients in seconds, and because you're helping those patients save millions of dollars of sick, suffering medical care and lost health and productivity, you'll be rewarded handsomely. So money is really a byproduct of the amazing services rendered. Money is not an end; it's a means to an end. Meaning that yes, the reason why I like making money is because I'm the master of my money. My money works for me. That's the difference. Money is not my master. Meaning that with the income I make, I'm able to use that income and pour it back into my patients. I'm able to pour it into dinners. I'm able to do things that I can invest back into what I do. So you see, my purpose and my vision that God placed in me, that steers my, that's the motor in my car. It's definitely not money, because you could have $10 million and be the most unfulfilled, depressed person in the world. So chiropractic saved my life. For some of you don't know, in 1998 I won Mr. America. I looked a certain way. I felt a certain way. And at 26, I married my wife, Whitney, and in 6 months into our relationship, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, an autoimmune, incurable disease. And my wife saw me go from 230 to 158 pounds in about 4.5 months. And the only option was to remove my colon after chemotherapy, interferon, organ rejection drugs, prednisone, addicted to Xanax, addicted to Valium. And I saw myself dwindle away, and my entire character was destroyed. And 2 weeks away from having my colon removed, they said, we'll do it in 2 weeks. I went home to see my mom. And in that moment, a patient of a doctor, not the doctor, the patient of a doctor, my 10th grade anatomy teacher, Coach Ferraccio, said, listen, he found my mom. She sent out like a prayer chain email, and he located my mom. And, he really went out of his way. He inconvenienced himself. He went out of his way. And he was at my mom's house, and he set me down, and he looked me in the eye with certainty, more certainty than I had. He says, listen, I need you to go see my doctor. He's a corrective care chiropractor. He's going to change your life. And you can't be like this anymore. I'm like, well, you don't get it. I went to the best in the country, which I did. Isn't it funny all your patients say they went to the best, surgeon, the best this person, and they're all the best, according to who, right? It's all made up. So I'm like, well, you understand, I had chiropractic before in baseball and football. They stretched me out. So I didn't know how a stretching modality, because this is you understand how pathetic this is? This is my first experience with chiropractor. A guy who came out, he put up a table, and he stretched my hamstrings out. That was chiropractic to me. That's all I knew about. So how can a muscle modality, a hamstring stretching modality, a rubbing my glute modality cure an incurable disease? Like it was not even the same ballpark. It was just like, to me, it was equivalent of if Dr. Tabor says, hey, listen, I know a guy who makes great hot dogs, and it's going to cure your ulcerative colitis. It's just like it's in a totally different, it's not even comparable. So my anatomy teacher looks at me, he's like, listen, I'm here right now because I felt it in my heart, and I felt the nudge in my heart to come out here and really, really take a bit of my time and effort to find you. And he's like, listen, you can do these drugs, and they're not working. You've done everything they've told you to do, it's not working. Now they're about to remove your colon. Now here's the deal. You could get well right now and get off the drugs, but once you get your colon removed, you'll never be the same. And he told me probably the most important question in my life. He goes, are you willing to do whatever it takes to get well? And that's a very important question that you have to ask yourself, for your practice, for your life, and of your patients. Because how you answer that question determines your health and your life from this point forward. So I thought I was doing everything. So I'm like, I've tried everything. Yeah, I'll do whatever. If you think, because he was so certain, it made me even second guess my not wanting to do it. So I went there and I saw this guy, Dr. Roger Romano. He took pictures of my spine, and he sat me down, and now for the first time I've heard, and I ever did hear, the principle of chiropractic in a simple, logical, common sense, deductive reasoning way, how life flows from the body from above down inside out. It made sense, helped me answer my why. It was so simple. There was no fancy terminology. It was a very basic thing, but in my heart, I just knew it felt right. You know what I mean? It was truth. Because truth exposes all the lies that the medical profession sends out there. And when I went back to look at my x-rays, and I had a massive 20-degree subluxation in my lower spine, and I looked at him, I'm like, well, how'd it get there? And he looked at me, he's like, what do you mean how'd it get there? He's like, if you were dying of thirst in the desert, would you ask me, how'd you get thirsty? I'm like, no. He's like, what is the question you need to be asking me right now? I'm like, well, how do I fix it? Because, really, it doesn't matter how I got there. That is not your job. Your job is to say, here, no matter how it got there, it's there now. What's the past have to do with it? Life's being choked off to those organs. It's shutting it down. Can that organ or those organs, can they possibly be able to heal and reach their potential? No. They can't reach their potential, and those organs die early. What happens to you? I die early. Absolutely. So what happens to my lifespan? It is shortening, which it was. So he says, you got to make a decision. I'm like, no, I'll correct this. I'm going to do what it takes. So I started it, and that was chiropractic for me. And, thank God it was a corrective care model. That was back when he was using CBP protocols and mirror image adjusting. And it wasn't overnight success. And I said, when am I going to get well? And he's like, well, I don't know. I can't tell you when you're going to get well, but I know that you're better off without interference than you are with interference. And 7 months later is when my blood stopped. So for 7 more months, I bled. But I got off the drugs. I avoided the surgery. I gained some weight. But at 7 months is when I saw the blood stopped. And I knew at that point that I was moving away from drugs and sickness and disease and depression and sterility and death and bankruptcy. And I was going towards life, health, hope, and the future I was always created to have. And, because one patient took the time to tell me, today I can take care of my wife. I have a beautiful son, Justice, who will be 7 in January. I have a beautiful son, Titus, he'll be 1 January 2nd. In January. And it's generational, guys. It saved my children. I wouldn't have these beautiful guys right here. So I don't know what they'll be doing, but you know what? My job with them is to lead them in the way they should go. And I'm very careful to see what God placed, the talents they placed in their lives, so I could invest in their purposes and their gifts and talents to develop them so we could see what they become. We have, again, one of the largest clinics in the history of the profession. I get to speak all over the country and the world, on stages everywhere. We have doctors come to my Zaino experience every single month, paying $5,000, $7,000. One doctor, because I didn't have an opening, paid me over $10,000 to come by himself, just to sit, just to do that Zaino experience. But every single person has netted over $100,000 or more for doing it. And hundreds of thousands of years have been added to hundreds of thousands of lives, not because of me, but because of Coach Ferraccio. He was a patient, just like we have patients, who was bold. He was taught the principle in the right way. He was trained up to be a leader, to go out and save people's lives, and that's exactly what he did. And so it always mean a lot to me in my life. And so after that, I'm fired up. And so he's like, let's go to school. So I wanted to become a chiropractor from that. So we started going to chiropractic school, and when I was there, we got really excited because I was going to save the world. But then what happened is I was conditioned by my teachers how hard practice would be. That's the problem. And, I realized that most of my teachers in chiropractic school were chiropractors who failed miserably in practice. So they fell back on teaching. And so in between the lines, they told you how tough boards were, how it's tough to make it, how you got to be in insurance. So it's just, they didn't mean it. They were just, they didn't have very good business savvy. So I was literally programmed to believe that it would be difficult to make a living. They told us there'd be no way we could make $100,000 our first year, our first few years. It would be unrealistic in today's economy. And they even had a study that we filled out surveys every other trimester showing how, like the same survey over and over. And we filled it out. And from first try to ninth try, it showed how, the successful job of a poverty scarcity mentality from when we first came to when we left, that we were all okay with making $30,000 to $40,000 a year, even less than a personal trainer or a teacher, just to practice our profession. And so that's what school did to me. And that's what school does do to people. And again, it wasn't that they taught you a course on how to be scarce, but when you're not being taught by a very, very successful practitioner who maybe is just teaching because of love, like, when Reggie Gold taught. That would be awesome. Or Fred Barge, that would be awesome. Geez, Sid Williams, Now we're talking about, it just, you can't help but get frustrated. So due to that fear and scarcity, I made my wife drop out of college. So my wife never got her degree because I wanted to work for a chiropractor so she could learn the business, because I knew none of us were going to learn business in school. Oh, yeah, maybe an hour or, one class, but that didn't work. And then I graduated. I was supposed to go back home to Florida, where some docs were going to open up a practice for me, where I'd, make $4,000 a month as an associate. And my wife and I just had an uneasy feeling about Florida, even though that's my home. It's on the beach in Sarasota, Florida. And but we were led to Houston, which was, I went to school in Dallas, so I was chiropractic school, so 3 hours south was Houston. And every single person in our lives told us not to go to Houston. Everybody. Our parents were against it. It was just out of control. But I don't know. I just had, we had this feeling. I don't know. You have this like gut feeling. You can't explain why, but we went there. So it was just Whitney and I by ourselves. And I called up about 90 doctors. So where I live in the Woodlands, there's 95 doctors for about 100,000 people. So I went there. I emailed them. I wrote them. I called them. So I just want to see some words of wisdom, just get to know them. I don't know anything about it. How do you start? Maybe they'll give me some good ideas. And one guy said, if you think you're going to make a killing in this town, this just isn't the town for you. Well, and the best was, this one guy is right off the highway, like he's on the feeder road of the highway. He says, listen, you're just going to be a very little tadpole in a very large pond. And I sat there, and I'm laughing now about it, but it's at that moment it was pretty scary. I remember walking out telling my wife, I'm like, I totally started second guessing myself. And I go, well, maybe my teachers were right, and I go, what the hell did we just do? Well, what kind of professional man here? I gave up personal training where, I would make, a really good amount of money doing that. It's like, what are we about to go into? And so I didn't know where to start, how do I get new patients? How are we going to make a living? So we made sure we get on every insurance in, because at least if people had insurance, it would be free, quote unquote, free to them. So maybe that would sign them up. And on top of that, I had a major fear of public speaking. A really big thing. Number one, when I went to chiropractic, I saw myself, I would say, my inner self would say I'm not a good marketer and I'm not a good public speaker. That's just not what I did. Even though I won Mr. America, I never had to say one word. I just, my body said it all. And, I just wasn't able to communicate the message of chiropractic to people. I would stand in front of people. I was paralyzed. I had a book with my talk written in it. And I would just read this talk. It was a statistics book, so people thought I was reading stats. I wasn't reading stats. I was reading my talk, word for word, on a podium, gripping onto the podium. And after that, people said it was a good speech. It was a nice presentation. They liked the information. Yeah, they're not into drugs either. And it was just a bunch of crap. They tapped me on the shoulder. Some asked for a card, some didn't. And I just walked away totally feeling embarrassed, impotent, ineffective, and no results. And then now I had to go home to see my wife. So I come on here, I have, so with no new patients, I'm making mediocre income, thank God I have insurance. I'm working 12 to 15 hours a day. I don't even know what I was doing. I'm trying to think back. What took me 12 hours? I don't know. And so I was facing my biggest failure. So, I was not able to effectively help the people in my town. And I would bring this home, I bring this home, so we're arguing back and forth. She's frustrated, I'm frustrated, and I'm venting to her. And all I did was blame my circumstances. I said, it was the group, it was the people, it was the whatever it was. But I was just, I was just covering up for my lack of success and just making matters even worse. So let me explain something. So if we reverse it a little bit, when I was sick, kind of the reason we went to Houston was, I was laying on the couch, super sick, just grabbing my gut, and Daystar TV came on, and I saw it was Joel Osteen's church, but it was his older church before they went to the big one, and they just panned the crowd, and I saw there was 6,000 people. It was just massive, and for some reason when I saw it, I got like a tear of inspiration. Just something jumped inside me. I told my wife, I'm like, listen, someday if I get well, if I'm doing well, we're going to speak in front of thousands of people. And this is when I was, super sick in school, right before it, rather. And then I was just, I remember that. And, his church happened to be in Houston, so maybe that's what kind of influenced us to Houston. But, I just remember that. And then here it is years later. I'm so caught up in all the bullcrap of scarcity and poverty. And then my event happened. We all have this event. We all have it. It's not like you're not going to get it. You're going to get it. And I think maybe you had it already, but we kind of lose focus of this event. And you have many events in your life, and each event is kind of like a booster to get you to that next level of consciousness or awareness. And one night, a few of my patients invited me to a Mercy Me concert in the Woodlands. And Dr. Tabor, if you just, without fast forwarding the slides, if you look at the slides there, can you bring up that picture of the pavilion? It looks like that big tent. Let's see if it's on there. So they invited me to this Woodlands pavilion. And so the pavilion is like this massive, huge tent. It fits 10,000 people. And that was a class maybe I want to do. That was my spine. There we go. He's fast forwarding. But so they say, listen, let's take you to this pavilion. And Mercy Me was playing there. So I'm like, oh, great. So, it's a nice concert. I needed it. So I walked into the pavilion, and I saw 10,000 people there. You'll see in a second. Not that one. Two more. You'll see it. And when I sat there and I looked at 10,000 people, they were all having fun. Keep on going, Tabe. I just had kind of a surreal moment. Huh?
Is that one it right there?
No, man. It's got a big tent. Looks like a massive tent. Two more from me. And I had a surreal moment because you see all these people standing there. And there it is. Look at that. And that's the exact location I sat at. I remember taking a picture. So there it is. So you see all these people sitting there. They're having fun. The concert's ready to start. And all of a sudden, I just started weeping. I just started getting, because basically I knew of a health and healing. I knew a principle of health and healing that many of those people had no idea about. And because I wasn't doing anything about it, because I sucked at doing what I did, and they didn't, and these people didn't know these principles, so they're blindly like, sheep going to the slaughter, and they didn't know anything about chiropractic, true chiropractic. They knew about all the crap that's out there. These people were basically charging down a sick, suffering, miserable medical road needlessly. So even though they were happy to be with their friends and family right there, I know that if we didn't get this message to them, they're all going to die. They're going to, well, you know what? They're not going to live their right life. They're not going to be as productive as they could be. They're going to be over-medicated. They're going to lose all their money. How many kids will not reach their dreams or their goals and families? How many kids in there will not see their parents or parents will see their grandchildren? So I realized all at once, all this hit me like the future of these people's lives was in the principle that I knew. And I was the only one who knew that principle in that crowd, guaranteed, because the other chiropractors weren't telling that principle. And that's where I broke down. That's where I was. I just felt the burden of my calling. That I wasn't delivering the message that I was supposed to. If I wasn't doing it, who's going to? And I reached that broken point where I just started breaking down right there in front of everybody, and I really didn't know what was happening. And I can't stop crying. And so Whitney's like, "What's wrong?" And I didn't know, but then I really knew what it was. It was that back when I was sick, and I had that inspirational moment, of that tear of inspiration, when I knew that someday I would speak in front of thousands of people. I just kind of had a glimpse of what I wasn't doing. I kind of had a glimpse that the road I was on, I was not fulfilling the purpose that was put in my heart to speak in front of thousands of people. I saw myself as the person who missed the boat. So it was a beautiful time that, I realized, I was past, present, and future all in one moment, realizing that exactly how I'm going right now, I'm walking by my purpose, and, it was just going to be buried in the ground someday. And I realized in that point that it was my chosen soul purpose inside me, and it was refusing to allow my fears and insecurities to stop me from helping the thousands of people around me. And this moment exposed me to the point that I was not a leader. I was chosen to be due to all the fear, scarcity, and uncertainty holding me back from the years I allowed it to take control of my mind. And that really was a turning point in my life. That was a big one of them. And now I can tell you my turning points are on a daily basis from situations, but that was a big turning point. And that emotional breakthrough led me to focus on 4 simple yet life-changing principles, and I believe they're the main reasons I achieved what we got today. So the first the first thing I realized was I had to make my purpose and desire to help others bigger than my own fears, insecurities, and the know-it-all attitude that I had, if I was to be congruent with chiropractic message and my own purpose, I had to live it up daily. I had to start getting adjusted. I had to start taking care of my body. That day I committed to step up and lead the thousands of people that are before me to the God-given principles and laws of healthy living so they can achieve and live their sole purpose. Number two, I realized that I couldn't do it alone because I still, even though I was like, no, I'm going to step up to be a leader, well, how the hell do you do it? So I knew I couldn't do it alone. So I basically put my fear, my ego, my pride, and I had to humble myself to say I'm going to be a student the rest of my life. And I sought out others who were doing things much better than I was. So docs who were doing things that I wanted to be doing but didn't know how to do. I sought out people inside the profession, outside the profession, areas of life that I wanted to improve. Maybe it was my marriage or finances or, I wanted to close the gap, because I saw this huge gap in between where they were, where I wanted to be. And through these different coaching groups, mentors, or people I call thought leaders, in that journey, I started to see beyond my own sight. These people in my life allowed me to start seeing according to my vision and not my sight. See, if we walk by sight, it's like you see 3 feet in front of you. But when you walk through your vision is seeing things that you may not see yet. And the things like, it's a very good thing. So you go by your vision. And number 3, I realized I needed to have a business and not a job. See, I was working so hard but getting no results. So in order to have a purpose-driven practice, I needed predictable systems of a business. Instead of working 12 to 15-hour days, with mediocre results, if I wanted to help 50 times more people, how can I work 50 times more hours or 50 times more harder? So I didn't know how to become efficient. So I had to learn to create a business around my expertise and put systems in a place so I could become the chiropractic thought leader voice to others. And within a few months, things started picking up. I put those practices and procedures and mindset and my untapped passion back in the town. And my family was shocked because I'm speaking in front of people because that was it. The pain of discipline was not as bad as the pain of regret. And I kind of tasted regret for a little bit. So the fear of talking in front of people, that wasn't as bad as the pain of regret of not doing it. So I talked for 1 or 2 people. Then I get a call to talk to 40 people. And that scared the crap out of me. But I said, listen, if I got the call to talk to 40 people, even though I don't feel I'm ready, well, God does, so why would I have this opportunity? Then I had a call for 300 people to talk in front of. I was like, oh, my God, am I going to do this? But I just remembered, I said, listen, if that opportunity is in front of me, that means that, I might not feel I'm ready, but God probably knows I'm ready. And, if I bomb it, it was a learning experience. So I just kind of did it anyway, and we started to move on up. My collections went from 5,000 to 40,000 in 3 months. So our volume increased to 315 visits per week. And I continued to see, I struck gold, man. I saw the value in having thought leaders, mentors, and coaches in my life. Not necessarily chiropractic coaches, but what I'm saying is just having mentors or people to lead you according to your vision. And that was the main thing. Like, there were some people that try to squeeze me into their vision. And that's like, if I was a square block and they were a round hole, you could wedge me in there, but there's a time where you can't because the problem with trying to live underneath another man's vision is they'll never allow you to go beyond what they saw. So when you start to get to the point of being creative, there's no creativity anymore because they will not allow it because it's their vision. You follow what I'm saying? So my purpose is starting to continue to evolve and grow, and we had our I always pick that 1 week. We went from 600 visits a week at one point to 2,600 visits a week, and that was the big months. No cash. No insurance. 100% cash. 330,000 at that time, all cash. Seeing over 2,600 patient visits a week, and that was the first time we really did it. And we've been higher since then. A lot higher. But, I'm just saying, that first time was just amazing because it was just, holy cow. If I didn't stop believing all those lies that I was taught in school, the lies I told myself, the lies I believed people, were saying, or what I thought people would think about me, if I stopped, the fact that if I would have continued to allow that to affect my life, we wouldn't have made the impact in town we did. And a lot of people, when I tell that story, they're like, Because, basically what I did is I just went over the Sports Center highlights. I didn't do, so it might sound like it happened in 5 minutes, but it didn't. It took 4 or 5 years. It was a long time. And some people were like, well, I'm up with you at this point, but a lot of that stuff's impossible. You can't see that volume. You can't be all cash. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not impossible. And I believe that any chiropractor with a big enough purpose, the right thought leaders, and predictable business systems can achieve similar or even better results than I have. And in fact, it's on my heart to help as many of you guys to unlock your true potential to help every single person in your community. And that's why I created Chiro Thought Leaders. I can tell you, Dr. Tabor and I have probably been working maybe a little bit over 2.5 years on Chiro Thought Leaders because I wanted to help you elevate the standards of the profession that have saved my life. Say this profession has saved most of your lives and millions of people who are under and have received chiropractic care. So I realize, again, I can't do it alone. And that's why I want to help you and incorporate these principles into your practice. And after coaching hundreds of chiropractors across the world, again, I believe there's 4 major barriers that are stopping them from achieving the success they want in their practice. So number 1, let's get to this. The first challenge I see many chiropractors allow fear, uncertainty, and burnout to kill their dreams. Everyone I talk to, there's one of those things. You either got fear, burnout, or uncertainty. A lot of chiropractors experience that they're inferior. Some chiropractors feel that they believe in the philosophy, but they don't believe in themselves. So if you don't believe in yourself, you can't boldly go out there and tell the message to save people around you. Because if you're not boldly telling it and you don't believe what you're saying, then people are like, they're like, no, something's weird. I feel like there's a lot of chiros that live in fear. And when you live in fear, that leads to depression, like I was feeling because I wasn't living up to my purpose. So then you go into depression. So the burnout, fatigue, lack of energy, you're looking at your watch to see what time to leave. That's all a side effect of losing your purpose. When you lose your purpose, you start to get stale. And when you're trying to be a successful chiropractor with having a strong enough purpose, it's like trying to turn on a light bulb without electricity. You can have all the hardware there, right? The wires, the bulb. But if there's no electricity, there's no power. So your purpose is your power. Your purpose is, Osteoparis. Your purpose is your mojo, man. It's like that is your fuel. And purpose is from a spiritual source, so there's unlimited amounts of it. And so when you start losing your purpose, you know what? Maybe you don't lose your purpose. You tune out from it, right? Because it's unlimited supply. So you can't lose something that's unlimited. So if you tune out slightly, you start to go stale. You start to die. That's your power source. And what's crazy for me is we have the biggest opportunity to elevate the chiro industry and change this country. Look at the healthcare system. The government's shut down over it. I tell my patients more now than ever, if you want to be starting to make some good changes and take care of your health, which is your greatest asset, you want to be doing that now. Because you see the way this healthcare system is going. Do you want that over your life? Do you want those people to take care of you? They're like, no. So who cares most about you like we do? Right. Not me, because that patient needs to care more about their health than I do. Americans are drowning in sickness and disease. Chiroeconomics, though, says that the average chiropractor sees about 107 patients a week. They make about $182,000 a year. 82, not 182, $82,000 a year. And in my opinion, it's just mine. Most chiropractors, they're just not hungry, or you're just not driven enough to make the kind of impact they could, because things are kind of easy. I think chiropractic is good right now, meaning that you can make a good living. And that good living, the good living is what kills the profession, the good. Because sometimes you're so good, things are so good, you're too good to be great. You'll never be great because things are so good. And you get lazy. Like, none of us has fought. None of us went to jail for the principle. None of us have fought for it. So the guys who went to jail for it, you go to jail for the principle and you put your life on the line for the principle, you're a changed person. You talk differently. You better be certain if you put yourself through all that, because all you had to do is deny it. So the thing is, none of us went through that, but our ancestors did. And they were fireballs, they were movers, they were shakers, but none of us had to do that. Then insurance came in. Insurance really made us fat cats. That made we're real comfortable now. Now they're starting to pull that and freak everybody out. So it's like, chiropractic was good. So sometimes when things are good, it just prevents you from being great. And, that's in the Rocky line, in Rocky 3, Mick, who is Rocky Balboa's trainer or his thought leader,
And I remember in his mansion, in his great suit, everything that, he says, the problem with the champions? He goes, you guys got civilized, and that's the problem with the champion. The champion tastes a good life, and they get civilized, and they lose that hunger. They lose that eye of the tiger. And so that hunger, that eye of the tiger, what I want to bring that back to you, you all have it. And you know what it is? It was that moment when you said, you know what? I'm going to be a chiropractor. I'm going to change. I'm going to help people's lives. I'm going to change people's lives. So whatever fire that was in that moment, you got to reconnect to that. And just like that time when I was on the couch saying, someday I'll speak to thousands of people, I lost track of that from all the bull crap of school and all the stuff that they taught you. And if I sound harsh about school, because it is. Because all I do is I have to hear about students, and the only thing they talk about is how I'm going to pay my student loans. That's all it has nothing about the initial thing that they wanted. They went into school saying, listen, I want to lay my hands on people, set them free, and see their lives changed. And then you throw the CCE, throw everybody in there and all the boards and all this stuff, and you train up a bunch of on-fire people who want to help people to a bunch of people that are scared to fart in the wrong direction because they're afraid about doing the wrong thing. And how am I going to pay my student? And it just destroys your purpose. And that's why I want to be able to see you guys set free. You got to have a strong mindset today to make it in this business. So one of the exercises I used to do is I used to write down all my fears, and I still do. What are my fears? Everything. Practice fears, personal fears, whatever it is. I would write down those fears because I wanted to look at the exact things that were holding me back from my future. Because that's what fear does. Fear paralyzes you. So, I want to at least look at my enemy. And that fear was my enemy. And, fear was all an illusion, too, because it was something that didn't even happen. So when I would look at that fear, I would make it a point daily to start doing something to face my fear. Speaking in front of people. When I saw someone at the mall and I know I should, you ever see you should have said something to somebody and you don't? They compromise, so I started doing that, and the more you did it, knocking on doors, some people knock on doors, some people do screens, whatever it is, the more you do that, the more you face those fears, the smaller that fear gets. And the smaller that fear gets, then you start to walk in freedom. And you're not walking by your vision and your purpose, you're not walking by your fear. And so I'm committed to Chiro Thought Leaders to inspire you to reconnect with your mission and live a life without fear and scarcity, but with purpose and joy. The second challenge that I see is that most chiropractors don't have predictable systems to build that purpose-driven practice. You got yo-yo practices, or your practice is a reflection of your energy and mood, which doesn't work. You have a good week, you're in a good mood. You have a slow week, you're in a lousy mood. So, you can't let your practice dictate who you are as a husband or a wife, a father or mother. So, your marketing calendar is all off. Your reactive marketing. Oh, you have an allopathic way of marketing. It's reactive. It's not proactive. It's reactive. So when patients get slow, you freak out. What ad do we have to run? You start making bad decisions to get the patients back up versus having a very consistent marketing plan that you have an IV drip of patients coming in all the time. And that's security. That makes you nice and calm. Doctors do too many jobs. You guys are working way too hard. What I mean is, you're just working harder, not smarter. You're doing many jobs. You burn yourself out. You're trying to be Superman or Superwoman. And when you stretch yourself thin, you start to make mistakes. You start to become ineffective, and you say, "Why? How can I do any more? Because the ceiling's too low." And there's all these variables going on. So when you have all these variables, you can't objectively assess your practice. You cannot say, "Okay, well, boom, that's exactly right. Why this is happening." One thing I could tell you, and all my docs could tell you as well, that our practice, we're so in tune to our practice that if we tweak something just a little bit, it literally immediately manifests, and we have a direct feedback immediately. It's pretty amazing. So we have it down, so it's so tightly tuned, like a Stradivarius violin, that anything slightly off, we have immediate feedback, and we know what we need to do. It's truly it's almost an amazing supernatural thing. And then what happens is you'll hear this phone call, you go to a seminar, you go to another seminar, you watch this email or this and that, and then what starts to happen is you start adding all this stuff into your practice, and it just gets really complicated. So all you want to do is simplify your life, but then in trying to simplify our life, we want to make it complex by adding all these other things. So I would go to all the seminars, And all I would do was come home and add more and more stuff to my practice, and my staff would be leaving me. They'd be like, this is just way too overwhelming. So trying to grow a practice without predictable systems, it's like rolling a big boulder up the hill and knowing that someday that boulder is going to come down and roll over you again. We all feel it, right? Like I used to say, it felt like I'm squatting 1,000 pounds, just like if you guys ever weight trained, when you take a real heavy weight off the bar and your whole body just screams that it does not like it, and that's what it felt. It was just, and you just know that this was not long term. You couldn't keep this up, but you didn't fail today, so you're just going to, that bridge will come when you get there. And so what I started doing was, again, I'm a big intellect. I wrote down every single thing I did throughout the day, personal, business. And I circled the things. I want you to then circle the things that you really enjoy, the things that you get juice out of, the things that when you do it, you get energy. So speaking became something that gave me energy, adjusting. And everything else, that day one phone call, that all this other stuff, this sending out the email. You know what? I said, I'm only going to, the only things I circled are the things I'm going to do. I delegated everything else to my staff. I had to trust them. And when I delegated more responsibility to my staff having more responsibility, had better ownership on their job. So they had like this control, this amazing position now, and we became a team. And that Superman died, the Superman syndrome died, because everybody relied on me doing everything. So I put Superman to death. And so that structure in my life actually gave me freedom. A lot of people, I don't want structure, man. I want innate to flow. And listen, let me tell you, innate is a subunit of God, which is universal intelligence, and universal intelligence has perfect order. So don't give me the crap that you're just going to kind of float with the atmosphere. The universe has order. It always does, and it will always balance out. So to use the excuse and to take away responsibility, saying I'm just going to let things be as they be, que sera, sera, no way. You got to have predictable systems. So when those predictable systems are there, you make sure that you can just really get things nice and tight so you know exactly what happens when that patient walks in. There's no variables, and you know exactly what needs to be done to teach that principle and save their life. Structure gives you freedom. So again, regardless of the volume, again, what do you see? I mean, you guys want to see more people, if you want to see less people, I just basically, it's really on my heart. I would love it, maybe not at this call, but at other future times. I want to be able to at least give you something where, I could show you and share with you at least the step-by-step, all the systems that I personally have used to revolutionize my practice, yet without adding more working hours. Now, chances are I work a lot less than you guys and still see that. And it might not make sense how I do it, but it's because you got to become really efficient and really have the systems going perfectly. And the third challenge is most chiropractors don't have thought leaders in their lives. So, and a lot of the systems and the efficiency I got was with the thought leaders that I have. So a lot of times my thought leaders showed me things or told me things and it didn't make sense to me, but because they saw them as a different perspective. How can you really truly assess yourself by looking in the frame? B.J. Palmer used to talk about rule number 9, don't take yourself seriously. And it wasn't that you don't take yourself seriously, but when he went on, he would actually pack his bag and leave for a weekend or a month. And Rockefeller, all the major billionaires of his time, they all actually managed their businesses from afar. One guy would go to Europe for 3 months, and he says, I would have to go to Europe for 3 months in order to be able to effectively manage my office in the States. So he would go and travel and look at other companies and get new insights. So they would have to actually step out. So these are billionaire mindsets, okay? So this is not millionaire mindset, it's billionaire mindset. So it's like you literally have to assess your practice from afar to see the things that really matter and some of the things that are getting you upset that didn't matter. And so I don't know about you, but when I went to school, and especially today, you have these assemblies, and I'm not anti-school, don't get me wrong, but I'm anti-secret intention. How about that? I want true anti-secret motives. So I would go there, and I would sit there, and there would be a guy on stage in a nice suit telling me he was in practice for 30 years. It's literally saying if you don't do it if you don't do their type of coaching or system, but they leverage it's going to be rough out there. Most chiropractors fail out there. most students defer on their loans out there. So they use that you're going to fail as a leverage over the students. It was all part of the thing. And I realized that, and I was just pitched left and right. So the problem with chiropractors, we're pitched so often with chiropractic stuff, and we're pitched by people who either A, don't practice, okay, so they don't practice anymore, and so they figured they could, well, if I just coach people, then I'll make more money off the kids, but whatever it is. And I just started resisting everything. So even people that had truly good intentions for you, when they wanted to help you, I was resistive. Because I don't know. I mean, do you have a secret motive or what's going on? And so what I found out through the years that most coaching programs, again, try to shape you into their model. And so they can be models for you to shape your practice the way you want it to. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, okay, you got it. This is the model. If you don't fit that model, they would literally then say, well, you're not on the mission, or, what, something's different, or you're uncoachable. But it's not that you're uncoachable or you're not off the mission. If your vision is, I want to have a pediatric practice, I want to work from 12 to 2 every single day, I want to have a mother's group Sunday and Wednesday morning, whatever it is, like if that is in your heart, if that's if you took a white canvas and painted that vision, then that is your vision. We all have separate visions of how we're to practice, and when we bring all our visions together, it creates the amazing body, which is chiropractic. For me to say you got to practice just like this is the only way you got to do it. It's like saying the most important part of the entire body is the eyeball. So everybody needs to be an eyeball. All the cells need to be an eyeball. But that's a bunch of crap because we need hearts, lungs. We all play a vital role in the body, which is chiropractic, and our role is our vision. And so, that's my philosophy with Chiro Thought Leaders. I want to give you systems from successful thought leaders from inside and outside the chiro industry so that you can create the practice that you want according to your own definition of success. So it's critical to have a group of thought leaders helping you achieve your outcomes because everybody has them, guys, and you should too. The presidents have thought leaders helping them run the countries, In fact, most of these people behind the president do run the country, and he's just a puppet. The best CEOs in the world have thought leaders helping them run their companies. Every single CEO I know has accountability groups and people that mentor them as well. And you should have thought leaders too to run your practice. It's a biblical principle. If you read Proverbs. Read one every day. It's going to talk about seek wisdom, insight, understanding, counsel. It's all about thought leadership. It's all about seeking wisdom. That's what thought leaders give you is wisdom of wisdom of how to get a place to where you want to be much quicker. They give you wisdom from all the mistakes they made in their life. That is tremendously valuable. So because if we don't get advice from, for instance, if you don't have thought leaders, you pay the price. So because some chiros, they don't get advice from professional marketers. They say, well, I'll make up my own ad. So you end up wasting thousands of dollars on marketing efforts that are not effective. Because you don't get the right financial advice, you end up going, hey, here, go with this financial guy and this financial guy. And all these financial guys do is they're going to show you how you're losing money, but in the last 100 years, it's really a good thing that you're losing money because they're losing your money. It's crazy. So I had 6 financial advisors because what I did is I gave my money to someone who never taught me how to take right financial principles. So finally, when I found the right person to teach me a philosophy of how to take care of my own finances to invest in it back into my sole purpose, my life changed. Because when I started making money, I didn't know what to do with it. So I lost over $500,000, guys, making bad decisions and wrong investments because I didn't have the right philosophy when it came to money. I still had a scarcity mentality. So if you think money is going to cure your scarcity mentality, it's wrong because when I collected a lot of money, or I still felt that I needed to hoard it, so in the fear that someday it'll be taken away. So no matter how much I made or didn't make, I still had that scarcity mentality. Because a lot of docs don't improve their communication skills, you guys spend time and energy presenting to potential patients and experiencing poor closing ratios. For a long time, I had improper communication skills, and I did not get the results with people when I talked to them about chiropractic. And I had to work so much harder, speak to so much more people to get mediocre results versus now I could be really effective and a lot more powerful in shorter time and less hours, and I could just go in there and move a room. And so, just think about it. So we spent about 3.5 years and about $180,000 mastering the subject of chiropractic. But how much time do you spend learning how to communicate that expertise? Think about it. Because, I mean, like the most important, the most effective strategy in my practice was not screenings, was not living social, was not an ad in the paper, it wasn't TV or radio. You know, it was me getting out there and speaking the truth and principle, and I evangelize that message to 1 to 1,000 people, whatever it takes. Put me in a room. If you look at my Facebook, I did one in a hallway, guys, a hallway. There was no room. They're like, we don't have a room. Great. You got a hallway? Yeah, we have a hallway. Let's do it in the hallway. Like, I'll do whatever. I'll do it on top of a car if I have to, because it's like, it's so low tech, and it's just a message. So whether it be in a hallway, I would have done it in the bathroom. I would have done anywhere. I mean, you cannot grow your practice without having an outside perspective from other successful coaches or thought leaders. I mean, you could be the best driver, driving the best car at the best highway, but you're still going to have blind spots. And these blind spots can cause you to crash financially, emotionally. And great thought leaders just help you to identify the blind spots so you can win that race. You know, something I learned with some of my mentors is the art of communication is, you know, in the Power of Thought Leaders, we talk about the thought behind the thought. I mean, how many times when you have a patient come in, they say they don't have the time, they got to think about it, or, ooh, this, I wasn't expecting this. They have sticker shock. And, you know, you might have a good one-liner for that direct objection, but that's not the objection. You know, when someone says they don't have the time, they don't have the money, they got to think about it, or they got to talk to their spouse, it's like, you know, that is just a trump card. That is a face objection, but there's a much deeper thought behind that thought. So, you know, I want to teach you guys how to get to the root thought. When they say I got to think about it, it's like, well, you know, they just lost value. There's no urgency in there. So there's a lot more of that. So here you might be saying why you addressed their objection, but in reality you didn't, or that objection happened on the day one, where we want to make sure that doesn't happen. So that's why I'm so excited. It's just to basically introduce you guys to Power Thought Leaders. It is now and has proven itself already to be the most results-driven, step-by-step system to create the practice you want. You know, basically, Dr. Tabor and I, we divided this program into 3 areas. Number 1, we, you know, basically first you will have access to the Zaino experience, or the Dr. Zaino experience. It's just kind of everything in my office. Here's this way. So you get every single process, every template, every strategy that has been set into place to run my office if you wanted to. It's basically, you know, I listen to old dead people every day. What that means is I listen to audios every day. That's one of my most effective tools to growing and staying on focus. And I'm like, you know what, someday, you know, if my kids, I want my kids to hear their dad. You know, if my kids choose to be chiropractors, you know, I want them to know how I did it. Because maybe in 50 years or 60 years, you know, God willing, I'm still here. I'd love to be 97, you know, here. But for any reason, or maybe my great-grandkids, they say, you know what, I want to know how Grandpa Chris did it. You know, I want to be able to have something where they can see it all. And so if any of you wanted to take over my practice tomorrow, for whatever reason, just imagine I've given you every single video, doctor's report, day 1, the thought process behind it, how to do the day 1, the dinner revolution, my retention things, every single process, every single thought behind that process on HD video, hours and hours of stuff. So that's part of that. That's the first one. So I give you everything that I got, my dinner, my doctor's report, whatever you need. Then part of that is our lifetime patient blueprint. You know, we have 1,467 patients that are our lifetime VIPs. If you go on my Facebook again, Chris Zaino, you'll see we had a patient dinner, and you'll see 400-plus people. That was just the people who came to our lifetime patient dinner. So we have lifetime membership means like this. Hey, listen, you know, Dr. Zaino, here's my credit card. It's this much a month, and, you know, we'll never talk money. We're in for life. So I want to build a culture, you know, so we'll talk about how to do that. Got that dinner revolution, you know, how I do my dinners. That was my number 1 way of saving people's lives in my community. You know, going out in there and speaking the truth. And, you know, we're doing 3 dinners a month now. But, you know, once every 4 to 6 weeks is great. You'll never, ever wait. You will have an avalanche of qualified new patients every single week with that. Man, it's just got everything. Right now I'm looking over the list. It's nuts. You can check it out. And the second part of the program is now the thought leaders. So, you know, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in thought leaders. Like, for instance, you know, Garrett Gunderston for financial and sole purpose. You know, Dr. Jim Tempo, Roberto Monaco for speaking. He actually worked with Anthony Robbins for 6 years. Dr. Jim Tempo, I talked about Rick Sapio. He met 26 billionaires. So He really his mission is to see how the billionaire mind works. Amazing guys in radio like Alan Miner, Dr. Tabor for screening, Dr. Patrick Flynn, Josh Axe, and some nutritional or more advanced nutritional stuff. And these thought leaders it just goes on and on and on, and just you're looking at massive wisdom. Dr. Fred DiDomenico, and that was great stuff. It really kind of started with Dr. Fred because we used to call him the patient whisperer because he was just such a massive communicator with patients. And because he really knew the thought behind the thought. And so now I bring those people to you. I am happily pay them a check to work with them because that is my round table. That is my room. At 37, there's very few people I allow into my life now, and this is my round table. So everything I do, I run it by them. So there's really not a decision I do without running it by my wife and other people because we want to make sure we make the right decision. And so you have all these thoughts. So you have hours and hours and hours of content of our thought leaders for you. And these are the people, these are my Rolodex. This is the people I have worked with. So this is not, this is it. This is them. I put it just everything there. And the third part of the Power Thought Leaders is this. It's called integration. Because how many people, you listen to a call, you go to a seminar, and you hear some good stuff, but how do you integrate it to make it work? See, we want to take something from information to be integration. Because without integrating it, without taking information turned into action, it's just good information. And so that includes, you'll have with Power Thought Leaders, we'll do one Google Hangout per month for the members in there. And also you'll have a video blog that gets sent to you every 2 weeks. And the video blogs are great. Sometimes I was looking at them, sometimes they're a little sad because you know what? I remember, guys, I'm in practice. I adjust 92% of my patients, okay, or 90%. I take Thursday morning off, but I write down on the table like if I encounter something that's an issue, that's a problem, then I'm like, oh my God, I'm sure all of us go through this. I write that down, so I make sure I tell the real life. It's real life stuff. It's real talk. There's nothing it's not all sunshine and rainbows, the whole thing, but it's stuff that, some of the stuff that we don't like to talk about, we face head on in there. Basically, later on when we get 5,000 members or more, we'll launch our Power Thought Leaders Live seminar. There'll probably be a one-time, once a year seminar when we bring all the thought leaders together. You'll have email support. Any question you may have, we could then, any questions and answers you have, we send that question in. We'll answer that. If I do not know the answer to that, I will send it to one of the thought leaders. So whoever is best for that, we're able to get to you. And also everything, all the webinars, everything will be specially recorded. So you'll have hours and hours of videos. All the webinars will be recorded, or Google Hangouts will be recorded for you. And it gets just on and on. And probably, later on we'll add some other things just as it grows organically. And so now imagine, guys, for a second that now with all this I was talking about, now just can you imagine, was I able to just paint a little bit of a picture, just telling you the story where I came from, because I wasn't born, I was just like anybody else, and that's kind of what pisses me off a little bit, is that I see where you guys are at, and and don't pat yourself on your back if you're doing good. You're like, well, I see more than 107 people a week, or I make more than $82,000 a year. You know what? Yeah, but you're still not reaching your potential at all, okay? And I'm not saying that what I'm doing is your potential either. I'm just saying that, hey, you just don't settle and don't pat yourself on the back, because you know what? We still have a lot of garbage that we believe that's really holding us back from really making the impact that we could. And if anything, from the end of this call, you guys could now see. Now imagine now you're able to triple or quadruple the volume of your practice and your collections, and your quality of care goes up. Imagine that you're able to bring in more than $100,000, $200,000, $3,000 in revenue per month without insurance. Imagine, so no more insurance, guys. Imagine that. All right? Just for a second, how would you feel? Because every time anybody talks to me about insurance, they don't like it. And it's just an incongruency. And so imagine having a business where you have an avalanche of patients coming in every single day with very little marketing budget. And you know what the best part of it is? You just achieve all this by working less than you currently are, because you're really more efficient. You got systems in order. And that's really exactly what that Power Thought Leaders is designed to help you guys achieve. And, and you're probably wondering, what's that fourth idea? I'd say I had 4 ideas, 4 principles. So the first one was what? Purpose has to be bigger than your fear. Number 2, I talked about having a core group of thought leaders in my life, and then I talked about having systems, predictable systems to build a purpose-driven practice. So what was the fourth? The fourth barrier. And it's really something I've become known for by any one of my thought leaders or anybody who knows me. And the fourth thing is what I call speed of implementation. And what that is, it's action, it's immediate action. It's recognizing an opportunity that's right in front of you or right in front of me, and I go for it. I don't think about it, I do it, and I just do it because I know that the more I think about it, the more I talk myself out of it. And so what I'm offering you guys right now, if you haven't already, if you live under a rock, Chiro Thought Leaders, this whole entire program, when we did that, it's been priced in the range of $10,000 or $20,000 to be able to give all this information and to do it. And that was the appraised price of what it should be. And what would you have the value in that? So when a patient pays a couple thousand for care, so do they value what they're getting? The only reason why a patient has sticker shock is because they don't see the value in care. Like, what's the value of playing with your kids and not being in medical debt and being more productive, as productivity is directly related to your paycheck, to walk on the beach with your grandkids, to actually not only feel good but have vitality to do things you want to do, to be able to think clearer, to have a better relationship. So I'm asking the same thing to you. What's it worth to you to be able to not go home pissed off, to not go home thinking, well, I could be better, to not be so frustrated, to know that you go in the office and you're making a huge difference, to go on to enjoy your patients, to know that, you're bringing security to yourself, your family, and you're bringing security to your patients because you're delivering the best type of care known. What is that worth to you? Is that worth $20,000 to you? Because, what else are you going to do with your $20,000? You're going to buy a car with it? You're going to put it in an investment in the stock market, which you have no control over? Or you're going to blow it on a TV, or you're going to drink it away because you're depressed? What's going to happen? And so what I want to do is, Dr. Tabor and I was sitting there, and I realized that, I want to do something in this profession. This profession needs momentum. It's stale. It's like a 0 point. It's not moving the way it should go. It's just kind of blah. So I want to do something that was very disruptive, that was, I don't want to say anarchist, but disruptive, game changer, something that was a catalyst in a positive direction. So over the 2.5 years, Dr. Tabor, time away from his family, time away from my family, we flew all over the country. We sat down for hours making videos. And on top of that, hundreds of thousands of dollars of thought leaders that I paid for on tape. And you're basically getting all the mistakes I made, so you don't have to make those mistakes, and all the wisdom and knowledge I gained to get where I am. So all that stuff together, I said, you know what? What if I gave it away? What if I gave it at no cost to you? And, like, you didn't have to reach into your wallet. You didn't have to pay $20,000. You know what? Because what if I did something that was so crazy, that was so nuts, that I took away every barrier from you? So all the hurt, to kind of, even though it's not my responsibility to make up for all the people who kind of like stalled this profession and kind of to rob the spirit and the joy and the happiness and the fire that once you had in your heart, not that I did, but maybe I can make a difference about that. And so if I could do something that could leave a mark in this profession and bring the haters and the rejoicers at the same time, that would force coaching companies that are charging $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for a 1/8 of the content you'll get in this, it's going to force them to raise their standards. It's going to force them to raise their game. It's going to give students the ability to not have to be leveraged with the fear mentality that they'll never be able to make it, because we'll give them all the information they need to give you, the doctor right now that is doing good, tips and practices to make it even better. So that's my gift to you guys, and it's not because it's a holiday or it's around the holidays. It was in my heart. I was doing my reading that I'm going to give this all away to you at no cost. It's not going to cost you a thing. So you go to chirothoughtleaders.com now. You put in your name, your email, and you watch that. And basically that 45-minute video is kind of what we talked about today. And you hit subscribe now, and it's going to be a free membership. It's all you, and you're going to get everything for free. But there's 3 requirements, and let me just let you know, there's no such thing as free. It costs me a lot. It costs me a lot of time and effort. So I have 3 requirements, and here's my requirements. Ready? Number 1, you respect the content. What I mean by that is, you know what, you're going to look at the stuff, and some of it is going to relate to you that you could apply to your practice in your life. Great, do it. Tell others about it. And there might be some things that you may or may not agree with, or you can't apply it to your practice for whatever reason. And you know what? That's totally okay too. You know what this is about? This is all about you fulfilling your vision, not my vision, right? So the things that you don't like about it or something, just keep your opinion to yourself. We don't need to hear it. If you feel that you need to validate yourself, go on some sandbox link and you can vent your frustrations. But listen, the things that you like, take it, share it. The things that you don't, just leave it aside. I just want you to pick what makes sense to you, but I guarantee you everybody will find something valuable to it 100%. Number 2, I want you to integrate this in your life immediately. Start applying this. Watch those videos. Share it with your team. Look at the thought leaders. The thought leaders in there, they're going to probably have this just because of this opportunity, because they love this. I mean, just think this is an abundant mindset. So they made very, very special opportunities for you guys. So please, take them up on their special opportunities. See what's going on. Look into what they're doing. It changed my life. Or, that's why they're there. And integrate it in your life. Start applying it to your life and your practice. Bit by bit, master the thought and the intention of those videos. And take your time, but what I mean, take your time, but speed of information. So that means if you need one video, we watch one video a week or 3 videos a week, and you can implement them immediately, great. If you watch, someone emailed me the other day, I watched 10 hours of your videos, but I said, so how much did you implement? Nothing, right? So I'd rather you watch 3 videos and actually implement something to get results immediately than watch 13 hours saying how great it is, but you did nothing. And then the third requirement is I want you to text, email, Facebook, Skype, do whatever needs to be done, call them on the phone, and get every single chiropractic colleague into this revolution, and basically every single student get them hooked up with it, and let's give everybody the tools they need. I'm telling you, together, BJ said on his tombstone, he wanted to have, because, millions of years have been added to millions of lives because one man has lived. Well, let's take it to another. Let's 10X it. So why don't we say as a group together on a common mission of spreading chiropractic, becoming the best healthcare professionals on the planet and really teaching the people of the sick, suffering, dying world what we have. Then together, how about this? How about billions of years to be added to billions of lives because this generation of chiropractors had stood up. We were catalysts. We were agents for change, and we did something to a profession that literally had cancer, and we healed the profession of the cancer, and now we're able to move forward. And you know what? Maybe not in my generation, but at least for our kids' generation, this profession gets the awareness from the people's minds that it always deserved from the beginning. Well, I appreciate you guys. Dr. Tabor, you want to close it off with anything?
Yes, certainly. Well, just 2 quick things. Number 1, to you, Dr. Zaino, just a sincere thank you from the bottom of my heart, from, just on behalf of the listeners. Thank you for doing what you're doing for chiropractors and for our profession. I mean, you don't have to, but you've decided to do it because it's your calling and it's your purpose and you're amazing at it. So thank you for that. Number 2, to the listeners that are on here, I just want you to truly understand what an amazing value Chiro Thought Leaders is, chirothoughtleaders.com, and just check it out. I mean, it will absolutely transform your life and your practice. I know personally, from reading 60, 70 different testimonials that we have on the site. Once you log in and you get into the members area, you'll see where everybody has written comments. It's absolutely amazing. It's going to be it's going to change this profession forever. And what I want you to do, as soon as you create a membership and you get in, you get logged in, you go through some of the information, is I want you to blast this to every chiropractor that you know, all of your friends. I want you to put it on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, Snapchat. I want you to look in your contacts and your emails and do what I did, email it out to all of your chiropractic friends, because you're not selling them anything. All you're doing is being a good friend and helping them to improve their life and their practice, and doing what all of us chiropractors need to do, just like Dr. Zaino is, helping our profession raise to the next level and touch more lives in our country. So thank you, Dr. Zaino, for being here. Thank you for the passion that you put into it, and thank you for the information that you brought today. Every single time I listen to you, it puts me back on purpose, and it's completely motivational. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and thank you, everyone, for being on the call. Again, go to ChiroThoughtLeaders.com. That's www.ChiroThoughtLeaders.com. Get that membership right now and tell your friends about it. Thanks, everybody. Good night.